Hey everyone, welcome back to Addicted to Gear. Today we're diving into one of those timeless guitar debates, the kind of debate that nobody probably wants to get into, and these debates probably started quite a few bar fights. Today we're asking the timeless question, Jeff Beck versus Jimmy Page, who was the better guitarist? Are you ready for it? Both came out of the Yardbirds, both changed rock history forever, and both had completely different ways of speaking through the guitar. But if you had to pick one, who was the better guitarist? Grab your coffee, your favorite axe, and let's get into it. So let's rewind briefly to the mid-60s. The British invasion is in full swing, and the Yardbirds are like this fertile breeding ground for rock gods, it seems, because all the big name guitarists seem to have passed through that band. First, we had Eric Clapton. He joined in October of 63 and he left in March of 65. Short period, and he left because he wanted to stay true to traditional blues, while the Yardbirds at that point started moving towards a more pop rock kind of sound with songs like For Your Love and others coming out. Jeff Beck then joined the band in March of 1965, immediately after Clapton left, and he only stayed till November of 1966. His role at that point was lead guitarist and sonic innovator of the band, because Beck introduced feedback, fuzz, experimental tones on guitar that set the stage for psychedelic rock. Key tracks had come out at that point, things like Heart Full of Soul, Shapes of Things, Over Under, Sideways Down, and those were basically the new sound that was introduced at that point. In June of 1966, Jimmy Page joined the band, first as a bassist, then he moved into the co-lead guitarist role with Beck a few months later, and left in July of 1968 when the Yardbirds finally disbanded. Soon after that, he formed Led Zeppelin. So Jimmy Page first filled the role on bass, but when rhythm guitarist switched instruments, Page became Beck's partner in one of the most explosive dual guitar lineups we've ever seen. I would have loved to witness that short period of time when Jeff and Page actually shared that stage. Imagine that lineup, two apex predator guitarists in the same band and just like belting it out. It must have been mind-blowing. Now, to me, Beck was always the wild experimentalist, always pushing sounds that nobody else seemed to have been doing at that point or even imagining. Page, he was kind of already thinking like a producer at that point, layering ideas, building a massive sound, which he mastered very early on in his career. So that Yardbird period, that's where both their DNAs as guitar players really split off into different paths. Jeff Beck, the innovator, and Jimmy Page, the architect. So let's start with Jeff Beck. If you ever listen to albums like Blow by Blow or Wired, you know Beck didn't just play the guitar, he spoke through it. He used the Strat's whammy bar, volume knob, strings, pickup selector. Every part of the instrument was part of his vocabulary when he played it. He can make his guitar cry, whisper, scream, and sing, all without even picking a single note sometimes. He even once said he quit using a pick because it got in the way of his expression. And you can really hear that in every tone that he plays. Jeff projected pure touch and emotion with every note that he played. Every performance was different. You'd never hear Jeff play the same solo the same way twice. Every performance was unique, and technically, he was untouchable. Emotionally, he was like a jazz player lost in a rock guitarist's body. And yet he never chased fame the way others did, it seemed. He wanted to play and he wanted to chase tone. And that is probably why he's often called the guitarist's guitarist. Where Beck was the mad scientist, Page was the architect. He took everything, blues, folk music, Eastern music, and built Led Zeppelin, a band that defined hard rock. We gotta be honest, Page gave us some of the greatest riffs ever written. Whole Lot of Love, Black Dog, Cashmere, The Ocean, and the list just goes on and on. Now, his guitar tone wasn't about perfection. It was more about vibe, more about mojo. And that's the key when we think about Jimmy Page. He once said, "I always thought rock and roll should be a bit dangerous." And that's exactly how his playing feels. A little unhinged, always on the edge, and full of attitude. Now, as a producer, Page revolutionized how guitars were recorded, experimenting with multi-tracking, microphone distances, echo chambers, violin bows, and all kinds of weird things, including the wah pedal and fuzz and all that kind of stuff. Without that, modern rock wouldn't sound the same today. So how do you even begin to compare these two amazing guitarists? If we're talking technical mastery, I'm going to say Beck wins this hands down. He could bend microtones, control harmonics, and shape sounds in real time like no one else. But if we're talking impact on music, I'm going to have to give it to Page. His riffs and his production style, his understanding of how to take those two and put them together for a finished product, basically defined the style of a generation. Beck made you want to practice your guitar, Page made you want to start a band. And that's the real difference, in my opinion: emotion versus architecture, technique versus composition. To me, what's really cool about this relationship is that neither one of them saw it as a rivalry. They actually had deep respect for each other and were friends for a long, long time. Page once said, "Jeff is the best. He's got the touch." And Beck, in turn, praised Page for his creativity and vision. If you think about it, they were just two sides of the same coin, both searching for the perfect way to express themselves through six strings. So here's my question to you, and I want you to think about it carefully before you answer this. If you could only listen to one guitarist for the rest of your life, who would it be? Would you prefer Jeff Beck, the innovator, or Jimmy Page, the architect? And remember, guys, it's not about playing faster, it's about saying more. I'll see you in the next one.